I've known Kendra Leonard for roughly 20 years. We met working at Banana Republic and was immediately aware of her innate ability of being an astute, direct woman while also exuding an empathetic approach to her leadership, something I think many more people could learn from. One thing you may realize is Kendra has been through a lot. She's one of the most resilient people I know and has never wavered from her ever-ready smile and an aptitude to remain positive in any situation whatsoever. All reasons why I wanted to sit down with her. A little over 10 years ago, Kendra launched her brick-and-mortar business, The Art of Style, and we discuss her accordion-like journey of expanding and contracting her store count, as well as the trials and tribulations of retail in general. We chat about the importance of the human connection and how clothing can actually serve as motivation, and how a customer demographic isn't necessarily about a particular age or size. Kendra is in a really great place right now and continues to teach me things, and in this interaction it was to be aware of the distinction of commitment and attachment and how they are not really the same thing. That may seem obvious, but I truly feel many of us very well associate the two as one. I really enjoyed this chat, so if you're at all into fashion, clothes, the ins and outs of the business, or even self-help for that matter, this may just be your cup of tea. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. But one of my oldest friends,
Yeah, I know.
Kendra Leonard.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Thanks for doing the show.
Hey, thanks for asking me. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I know you. The audience doesn't. Where'd you grow up?
Oh, I've been in Raleigh, North Carolina since I was 5 years old. From outside of Chicago. Still kind of claim that as my home.
Nice.
But I have been in Raleigh for 35 years now. So
Good. What, your folks, what did they do? That I don't know.
my mother, so they're both retired. My mother was a teacher for her entire existence. And
What'd she teach?
she taught third grade for most of it. I mean, she actually taught a lot of it for the majority of the years, third grade. And then it was on to like Title I teaching at the end because she's really good about helping people that really have kind of like severe learning disabilities and things like that. And so she can really tap into the ones that really need help and really get it to the heart of the matter to help them overcome those challenges. So she's amazing. My dad worked for the government when I was very anti-government in high school, and I was like going on a rant. He's like, do you know who I work for? And I was like, Raytheon. And he's like, yes, as a government contract employee, I am the person that designs computer chips that put in missiles to blow things up. And I was like, I don't like you or that. That's not
So that perpetuated the anti-government?
Yeah, really. So
That's funny. So high school was all here. You've been in Raleigh the whole time. What were like some of your earlier interests? I mean, were you always into fashion?
I think I started wearing black when I was 8.
I started wearing black. This is amazing.
I've always
We're both sitting here in very dark colors.
I'm wearing midnight tonight in navy blue, but navy blue and black is nice. Trying to teach people that's an okay thing. My mother has always allowed me to like just be me. And so I passed that on to my child as well. And I think that like Punky Brewster, I grew up watching her. And so I had all these funky, crazy things that I would do. But I think back to like, I started wearing black and psychologically, I'm like, that's when my parents got divorced. And I'm like, was I going through some sort of grieving thing? So psychology is very much a part of what I do and what I went to school for.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, little things like that. I'm, starting to look at things through a different lens.
Where did you go to school? Where did you go to college?
I started at NC State, and then I got pregnant my sophomore year. My father, I broke the rule. So he was like, I'm not paying for college anymore. I had to stop going. I had complications in my pregnancy and had a 2-vessel cord instead of a 3-vessel cord, and ended up having like all these complications and cesarean at the end of that, and after 26 hours of labor. But anyway, my daughter's perfect and amazing, and now she's 20, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, I finished up years later at Dallas Baptist University, which is the college or the university that my late husband's brother went to, that he told me about, that I could do like online education and get credit for my experience. So instead of going and taking a class on human resource management, I wrote a 10-page document on human resource management, and I basically did that for like 10 classes. So, and I did that in one semester. So just time, money, all of that. I got credit for 7 out of the 10 of them. And then I finished. And because it was a Baptist University, I had to take religion classes, and I was like looking through like, what can I take? And I was like, oh, I can travel to Greece and Turkey and follow in the footsteps of Paul the Apostle. Cool. Oh wait, there's another trip and then of course I was like, where else can I go? What else can I do? So I went to Malta after that. It was like a graduate level class, and I was like, can you give me undergraduate credit? Which they did.
It's the darkest, bluest water I've ever seen.
God, it's
in Malta.
amazing. I love Malta so much.
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
incredible.
God, the people are incredible. And then I went to Israel after that. So, and then I completed my degree finally years later with
in international studies. I'm just kidding.
I mean, partly, yeah. I think it counts.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so you were studying human resources then?
So I actually went back to school because I wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales. Like that's what I'd actually started back at NC State and realized like as a single mother and member of leadership at Banana Republic, like I just didn't have time to physically go. So I needed online classes. And at the time, there weren't a ton of online classes that NC State offered. So that's why the whole Dallas Baptist University thing came up, and I could do that online. And they had like quarter classes instead of semester classes. So I got to like chop it up into little bits and handle it that way. So yeah, I ended up getting, so I went back to school for pharmaceutical sales. The day that I finished classes was the day that Miguel was diagnosed with leukemia. And so instead of like walking and getting my diploma the next week, we were in the hospital. And so I finished my studies, and I actually, the very next day after he told me that he was diagnosed, I had a meeting already set up with GlaxoSmithKline, and the guy was like, you look rough. And I was like, I didn't want to tell him, obviously. You know?
You have no idea, yeah.
So anyway, and then when he was like, hey, I told my district manager about you, and he wants you to come along for a ride, ride along. And I was like, listen, when you told me I looked rough, yeah, I'd been crying the entire night because my boyfriend told me he was diagnosed with leukemia, and I can't switch jobs and be committed to anything. Like I've been at Banana Republic for, 7 years at this point maybe, and I needed to keep that, safety net and just security, as I had tons of vacation, and the know-how and the knowledge. Trying on something new was not for me at the time, and so I stayed at Banana Republic. But of course my husband ended up passing, and after 17 months of that, I got passed over for a promotion, and I was just like, fuck it, life's too short, love what I do, can't do this anymore. Wrote the business plan in 2 months and ran for Woman of the Year for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, raised $30,000 in 10 weeks, won the campaign, sold my house, bought my new one, quit 2 weeks later. And yeah, self-employed August 1st of 2010, and first store November of 2010, second store 11/11/11. My book 12/12/12. Got rid of the first store.
Okay,
in 13.
we're gonna go over all this.
I'm like,
honestly,
how much do you want to know? I'm trying to go quick.
it's so crazy because it's been a wild ride, obviously, with especially just in store count, right? Like I definitely want to get kind of into that little bit of nitty gritty, if you will.
Please.
Only due to the fact that so we kind of glazed over Banana, right? Like so. Did you start at Banana in high school?
I started my freshman year.
Okay, I was going to say, because you and I met at Banana.
Yes.
Here in Raleigh. Crabtree Valley Mall, shout out.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, I just remember you being like an assistant manager already, like when I started, I think.
So I started as a pace setter in the company, which was kind of like a manager in training. And
right.
Then I became assistant manager, associate manager, and they, of course, went through a restructuring, and it went to, I was customer experience manager after being a merchandise presentation manager. So I kind of did everything except eventually run the store, and that's when I got passed over after 11 and a half years. And not necessarily that it was the time. I mean, yes, long time, but I do think at the time I was actually ready. Like there were other opportunities in the past for me to run the store, and I had applied, and they were like, you're not ready. And I'm like, okay. And looking back, I wasn't. But at that time, I felt like I definitely was. And then, of course, the guy they brought in was at the recommendation of the woman that quit the Friday before Black Friday, which is like a mortal sin. And then
right.
He was kind of, I don't know, treated my employees horribly and was kind of slack. And I was like, and you gave it to him? And that's when I was like, life's too short,
Yeah.
So that was my catalyst to go.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things about larger companies, I feel like, is just that delicate balance between like what you do every day, doing it well, and then the politics.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But why do you think they kept promoting you?
I mean, I think that I earned it. I think that I worked
No, but I'm
hard
saying more
for it.
specifically because you definitely earned it. I'm just saying, like, what about you do you think they saw, or like what qualities do you have that
I think that my number one strength is positivity, and I'm a people person. Everything out of my mouth is usually about my people, in terms of like loving on them and communication with them. And so I was the one that people confided in, a lot of times, and was kind of the liaison to the rest of the leadership team of like, trust us, you have to trust me. We need to handle it this way or whatever. And because I very much believe that every human is different. And from a corporate perspective, when everyone wants to like cookie cut everything, you can't cookie cut people. And I think that that's what I love about having my own business, is that, and I will encourage everyone that I hire and train throughout my process, that you do manage everyone differently. And it's not that you're playing favorites or anything like that at all.
It's because they're different people.
It's because they're different people. People are motivated by different things. So I mean, I think I was super hardworking. I was super dedicated. I loved what I did. I was, again, I'm all about the people. So the internal clients as well as the external clients. And I was a great salesperson.
Were you ever getting recruited from other companies? Like, did anybody try to pluck you away?
Oh, yeah.
Like who?
I mean, Apple. And I was like, I'm computer illiterate. And they were like, but it's all about people. And I'm like, I'm computer illiterate. I'm not going to. And now I'm like, damn. But I wasn't my passion. Like, I'm passionate about people and clothing. Like, those are my loves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Obviously, like Ann Taylor, I think Limited came to me at one point in time.
Now, did you
Benetton.
skip on those brands because they weren't banana, or
Yeah.
was it the aesthetic, or were you digging through rumors in corporate culture that wouldn't align with where you were at, or like, why would you pass on those gigs?
I mean, it wasn't banana. I think that Gap Inc. in general is probably the best retailer in terms of structure and
Their
training.
management training is second to none.
And so, and the people. I mean, you know, people stay for people. People don't stay for corporations. But there was a lot of great people at Banana Republic. I did love my district manager. I just had a crazy dream about him and reached out to him on LinkedIn. Actually, I was like, hey, come see me sometime.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, I just, I didn't want to leave. I liked the philosophy of Banana Republic. I liked the purpose, values, behaviors that I taught the training. So like I spoke that language, and I mean, even my business plan, I mean, it's written after like that, those core values, very much
remain.
aligned. Yeah. With my moral fiber and the people that are part of my company now.
That's awesome. Getting back to where you were sort of alluding to before, you kind of got passed over on the ultimate promotion of running that store, which was interesting because that store has like grown. It like doubled in size. Then it moved in the mall. Like,
so yes, but I was actually, I guess you don't know this. I was transferred to Streets at South Point my last year.
oh, I did not know that.
So they moved me to that location. And that was the store that was like great business, but it was a cluster. I mean, it was a complete cluster.
I opened that store.
Okay. Yeah. So they couldn't keep people. They couldn't keep it clean. They didn't know what was wrong with it. And so when they put me over there, we did a 180 with cause we had employee surveys, and in terms of the happy, like the morale,
Like the satisfaction.
in the store,
Yeah.
completely changed and did a 180. And so part of my, what were you most proud of? I was like, that right there, we retained a ton of people because it's how you treat your people.
Right.
And it's just asking them when they come in at the end of a day or at the end of their day that they're starting their shift at Banana Republic as a part-time employee after they've working 40 hours a week and dealing with death and deadlines and everything else of hey, how are you? And just looking them in the eye and treating them with respect as human beings.
On a human level, imagine that.
Yeah. That's the whole thing about corporate.
Well, that's epic though for you.
It's everything. Yeah. I mean, without my people, I'm nothing. And you are as great as your weakest link, right? And it's just always learning, and everyone's on a different journey, and respecting people where they are. And
No, 100%. I think that's phenomenal. All right. So 2010,
2010, I left. Yeah.
2 months, you wrote your business plan,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
raised $30,000.
Yes.
Now, when you raised that cash, was it friends and family? Was it all strangers?
I mean, it was definitely a mixture and combination of everyone. I had a pin on, and so a bunch of people would be like, "What's that?" And so of course I would share the story, and it was, and then it was doubled by Gap Inc. We had a fashion show. That was the big thing that we did to get the most money, basically, and and then Gap Inc. doubled our efforts. So, and I had I got a cigar smoker, and I had little events here and there, but the fashion show was the one that made it happen, and that kind of was, and we'd been doing fashion shows, Habitat for Humanity, Alliance of AIDS Services Carolinas. So at this point in time, it was Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
When you're raising this money, it's all based on donation, it sounds like.
100%.
So there's no terms, there's no payback,
No.
This is all just the
Giving.
grace of folks.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
Just giving. Yeah. And I think that people, I think that there's obviously a million causes, and it's like, what speaks to you? And I think that cancer has affected everyone. And I think that even people that had run that didn't have a connection to cancer, that's why they have the boy and the girl of the year. But I think that, my experience with Miguel was, and because I'm a people person, like I talked to my clients and I talked to everyone I knew about it. And I think that their love and support, and then of course financial donations, helped.
Yeah.
So.
And you opened your first store
in November of 2010 in Briar Creek.
Okay, that's right. It was Briar Creek first, and
Yes.
then you opened your second store
A year later on 11/11/11. Yeah, I was going to open a lounge because I will someday. I'll have an adult lounge someday. But I opened the second store in Cameron Village, and then had the two. Kind of lost my brain. That was a little hellacious having two stores in two bad locations, but got rid of Briar Creek after.
Why would you say they're both bad locations?
I mean, as a young entrepreneur, I think that, and I'm being very stubborn too, that I didn't want to be in North Hills or Cameron Village, that have a perception of being like very stuck up and what's called inside the beltline, and like fake and pretentious people, and all with love, because that's where I come from. But like, I love everyone, but we all have red blood and we all like have green money, and I don't really think that anyone's better than anyone else, and so I don't like the air that comes along with pretentiousness, and so for me it's all about humility and love and respect and integrity of like the
So
human
did you
soul.
find those were being compromised when you were in Cameron Village then?
I mean, we got mocked a lot. I mean, everyone kind of like, we were definitely the redheaded stepchild, and I'm totally fine with being that one. But it wasn't a good fit. It's like what I realized again, like not knowing, and of course, location.
Right.
But I was trying to be different by being at Briar Creek and like standing out and being the only boutique there, and being the only like non-corporate, thing. But then, of course, when you look at like now, hindsight, you look back and you're like, oh, yes, everything's cookie cutter. Nobody wants what I'm doing, which is totally different. And so in Cameron Village, it's very, again, what they call inside the beltline, but, and very millennial. Like, and I don't have anything against millennials. They're great. They're going to grow up too. But like our bread and butter, and I hate to talk about size or age in my business, but yeah, mid 40s, mid 50s in terms of disposable income, and people that are well traveled and versed in that. And of course, I have people in my 30s and 20s too, and 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, it was funny because I was going to talk to you about your customer a little bit later, but
yeah,
that's interesting. So you actually traditionally fall on like the higher end of the age group?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But and I mean, I think obviously over the course of the years, our selections have changed, and we're able to buy different brands now. I think that right now, I mean, everyone is really price conscious. That's been a huge, I mean, I was gone, a lot over the month of January, and a lot of the feedback that I got from my ladies was that people are like everything is about price. Like, oh, there's no way. Oh, never mind. Like, how much is this and why? And so, yeah, I think people are a little shaken up. So
now
far.
we can jump around here a little bit based on price sensitivity and such. Like, you're not a highly promotive business, are you?
No.
Meaning, like, do you go on sale?
No.
Ever?
So February is our sale month, and it's our spin on Valentine's Day. We call it our Only the Lonely sale. So all of our last one pieces, which we have like little labels on all the hangers of the last piece, they go to 30% off.
Gotcha.
Just because I have a ton of them. And so they need love too. So that's why we do that. But otherwise, no, we do not do markdowns on a regular basis. And we don't, just because our pieces are timeless and classic, and a lot of them are all year long. And we only get a size run of everything in. So obviously there's the occasional, because I do a lot of online shopping as well. And I feel like I have a good eye in terms of aesthetic and product.
Absolutely.
But definitely have gotten some pieces and I'm like, didn't see that, or ooh, that's not the material I thought it was, or I mean, there's only so far a picture can go sometimes, and
100%,
obviously I'm
yeah.
a human that makes mistakes and errors, and I have to swallow that.
So sorry to jump around. Going back to when you opened your second store, though, like what was the impetus behind opening your second store, and also like so quickly? Because I mean, a year is not much time.
Yeah.
Was like business so good that you were like, wow, this is just good to go?
I mean, my CPA and my merchant rep were like, oh my God, you're doing great. And I was like, okay. And I had a speaking engagement at NC State. I had like 5 people that wanted to intern for me. And I was getting ready to open, like I was working on opening this lounge. I'd met with like 7 contractors and architects to like do the design and everything else. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should just stick with what I know. Let me just open another store. And so I like snapped my fingers, and in 3 weeks I had one open.
No way.
Because I work really fast. Like when I make a decision to go, I go.
Well, how did you get the inventory?
I split it. So I literally halved my store in Briar Creek, and then I split the sizes. And so we just had people going back and forth, and then I went back and forth every other day. Like
now, for those who don't live in Raleigh, obviously, which is the majority of the people that listen to this podcast.
Of course.
How far apart are these stores?
So it's
like 10 miles?
20, something like that. But it's like a nice solid, and probably now it's actually more like 30 minutes just because of traffic.
Okay.
But one is in now, like it was right outside of downtown Raleigh, and the other one was like halfway on the way to Chapel Hill.
It's like right near the airport.
It's right near the airport. So yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Like thinking international clients and things like that. But yeah, we were totally hidden.
Well, now you're downtown Raleigh proper.
God. Thank God.
So you went from by the airport, then just outside of downtown, and I think Cameron Village is the oldest open air shopping center, not a mall.
Correct.
But in the nation.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy. So it's kind of a historical monument, but like you're downtown proper now. So what happened with those 2 stores? What was that sequence like?
So after Briar Creek came up for renewal, I got rid of Briar Creek and had Cameron Village for 5.5 years. And we knew that we'd wanted to get downtown. We just didn't think that any space available would actually, or like we were looking at new construction, because we couldn't imagine anyone leaving what they had. And then all of a sudden I get this phone call from a woman who I had consulted through the process of opening her store back in the day when I was at Briar Creek, who had opened 2 stores, kind of like me. And she was sick and tired of going back and forth. She lived in North Raleigh and had a store in North Raleigh and was downtown. And she was like, do you want my space? And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And I mean, vaulted ceilings, and it is on like the street heading into, like we are on the corner of the busiest street.
My favorite bar is a block away.
Yeah. So, and everything is right here. All the festivals are right here. We came here and we doubled our business and doubled our clientele, and obviously have continued to increase ever since.
So did you have the 2 open?
No, I had left one.
Got it.
We coordinated. We had.
Sorry, I meant Cameron Village in here.
Yeah.
So you still had a store count of 2 when you opened here downtown?
No. We completely shut Cameron Village down
in order to come down here.
Yeah. I didn't want to have the 2. We were definitely wanting to get out of Cameron Village.
So it was a proper move.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So we had someone that sublet the space.
What's your square footage here?
1780.
And that's selling?
We have 1580.
Okay.
So we have about 200 in our stock room.
Got it. Well, it's amazing space. And you've been here how long?
It's been 3.5 years now. Thank you. It's beautiful. It feels good.
That's awesome. Now, as you were succeeding with those last 2 stores, obviously you shuttered the one to open here, right? To move. Was all the investment reinvested back into the business?
Absolutely.
Just to keep it going?
Yeah. I've done everything from scratch. I haven't had any investors. I literally asked the bank for 100,000 back in the day, and they gave me 42. And I was like, what do I do when I need more? And they were like, oh, come back for more. And of course, when I did, they were like, sorry, can't give you anything. You don't make any money. And I'm like, I'm coming to you. And then it was like struggle bus. I mean, there were times that I remember that I literally was like, oh, let me go check my stock room to see if they're, like, oh, I need a size. Oh, I don't have anything in my stock room. Like, please, God, buy a shirt. Like, please.
Right.
And so really dark times back in the day. And yeah, I mean, retail's dying, and I'm hoping to revolutionize it, because I think that, yes, online is a big thing. I don't want to get ahead of anything, but I think that there is I think that people are very lost and depressed and anxious and suicidal in the society based on a lot of the technological advances that we have and social media. And I think that we are very much in need of human connection. And so I'm computer illiterate and always have been, but I'm emotionally intelligent, and I need to look into people's eyes so I can see their souls and also like share my love with them. And so what we do here is that.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I actually had somebody pull me aside from a different conversation based on this podcast alone, and saying that, like, I think that is part of the reason that podcasts in general have exploded the way they have over the last few years, is because it does create a human connection, even though you're not in the room listening
Right.
to, let's say, you and I talking. But the idea is to create the environment where you feel as though you could be having that cup of coffee with us, or that beer with us, or what
Right.
have you. So, I mean, that's why I like podcasts personally. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. And even just the people that I follow on Instagram, for example, I've had so many either go on like quote unquote cleanses where they just won't even be on Instagram for a month. I've had people close their accounts, or just commit to doing less and less of it. I read somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, he said that he is now relying on social media only to be delivered through his desktop computer. So Facebook,
That's wonderful.
Instagram, all that, not to have it on his phone. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I wouldn't even think to do that, but maybe that's because I'm away from my computer 99% of the time.
Right.
And my phone's always on me, but maybe that's his point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I don't think there's any maybe about it, frankly, but,
I think it's ironic that all these, the social media has been created to connect, and I think it's created a disconnect. And I think that someone asked me, I got interviewed by a doctor from NC State not too long ago, and he's like, how can technology help your business? And I was like, if you can develop something with technology to actually remove it so that there can be a human connection through it, that's what I think is necessary.
yeah.
We're human, and we
Sure.
have skin, and we are meant to be like touched and physically loved and looked into somebody's eyes and smiled at, and through texting and emails, and again, like, obviously super convenient as a business owner, thank God for texting and everything else, but there's not necessarily, like, I hope that people that I communicate with know my heart, so when I'm quick or blunt or whatever, they know where I'm coming from out of love and respect. But people, there's no room for smiley faces. I mean, I put smiley faces at the end of things to make sure you're getting like the way that I intended it, because people, it's their perception as reality, and they read something and they might have a negative attitude and take it as like, and that's not at all what I meant.
Yeah, because there's no intonation in a text. So thank God for emojis, but also, God, I hate emojis.
I've
because
never
now,
used one. I know.
Because now people don't even know how to talk to each other.
I don't know. We're
They
going
just,
back to hieroglyphics. I don't know.
Right.
I was Cleopatra in my previous life, so that might help, but I don't know.
So one question I did want to ask, rotating amongst these stores, like, how is your business different downtown, or just today in general, than it used to be, say, in Cameron Village or even Briar Creek? Like,
I mean, it's night and day. My soul was being sucked out of me. I think that, downtown, we doubled our business, and it is the right location for us. I mean, it's in the heart of downtown, and people downtown, I think, are open-minded and have a little bit more of a healthy mindset and lifestyle.
is there more foot traffic here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what I know that we need. As long as we have foot traffic, we're fine. And that's why, obviously, we're looking to do, things in bigger cities, because also those people have things to do and disposable income, and they dress.
So you're surrounded by businesses, right? Like,
Correct.
so lunch breaks and such, I'm sure people are coming in. What happens on a Saturday or a Sunday? Are you considered a destination at that point?
We are for, I would say, some of our clients. We do have just a ton of people that walk through. We have a lot of, I think, obviously we're European inspired. And so I think we have a lot of people that are transient that come through that really understand what we're doing here.
They're familiar with the labels.
We're not Southern style. So, and we're not in a market that is very fashion forward. And so with Love, like, people are very, very casual. And I'm also...
And conservative.
And so, and I don't think that we do anything, like, I don't consider us flashy, but we definitely have like a little bit of an edge to us, but more modern, but clean and classic. I mean, my history at Banana Republic, that's my foundation. And that's what I like. I'm going to rock this dress when I'm 70. And that's my motivation also to stay healthy, because I want to wear this dress, and I want it, like, I use my clothing as like motivation to stay healthy. I use it as, like, investment pieces. Like, I don't frivolously, I mean, I do frivolously buy things, but because I'm addicted to clothing, but I buy them with intention. And I do think about, like, yes, this is a $200 whatever, but I'm going to wear it till I'm 70. And so I'll go out and spend $200 on a weekend, having dinner and drinks and whatever. Why would I not spend that on, dressing myself?
For sure.
Presenting myself to the world every day. And obviously I own a clothing store, so I want to look presentable.
Well, and I mean, even down to the human connection, right? Like, if you're actually in the same room with somebody, you see them first before you hear them, typically.
Yeah.
And then conversely, like, conversations may spiral out of that. But that first impression typically comes from a view. Right. Like a viewpoint,
And most of us are fortunate enough to have the gift of sight. And so I think that, yes, before you open your mouth, your outfit says something about you. The way that you carry yourself as a human says something. And again, not materialism, not arrogance, because I am not a fan of that at all. That's not what I'm in this industry for. I know that there's a huge part of the fashion industry that's all about, like, and that's not.
Yeah, confidence, but
yeah, no, and
could definitely be misconstrued or misrepresented.
Correct. No, I think confidence, I don't know. I mean, I am confident when I put clothing on that makes me feel a certain way. And sometimes, and of course it should be coming from the inside out. Some days I feel like crap. And so I'm going to dress up so I look great. And I mean, the number one piece of feedback is that we get clients get compliments on everything that they wear. So, that's awesome. Don't let it go to your head. Vain people suck. Just tell them where you got it. Keep it coming back, But I do think there's the confidence that comes with that. And I am worried about the apathy that's going on in many different arenas, obviously, especially clothing, that I just wonder, like, people just don't care. And again, is it because they don't know who they are and they're lost? And I think sad. And I think the more that you get to know yourself, which is what we try to help people do, and not that anyone needs help or guidance or whatever, but, like, I do feel like that we can help with that, and that clothing is a big part of expressing your personality and your style.
Well, sure. I think it can definitely instill confidence, because even on those bad days, if you try to look your best, you can oftentimes feel your best. So you can completely flip the script from, that horrible wake up moment to, say, lunchtime.
Right.
I think it's completely fair. Are you a watch collector but having trouble finding something cool and unique? I mean, the last thing you really want is what everyone else has, right? Well, this is where my friend and former Standard H podcast guest Tim Jackson comes in. He and his wife Jana own Passion Fine Jewelry in Solana Beach, California, where you'll find an incredible assortment of independent watches waiting for you in their shop and online. And if you're getting engaged, have an anniversary coming up, or simply have another reason to buy jewelry, they have you covered. Passion Fine Jewelry also employs a goldsmith on staff for any custom desires, so you're able to go that route if you so choose. Visit Passion Fine Jewelry when you find yourself in Southern California, but they're also open 24 hours a day at passionfinejewelry.com. You can also find a wealth of information through Tim's blog, independentintime.com, where he covers anything independent watchmaking related, among a plethora of other information, so check that out as well. I've really enjoyed creating these podcasts on behalf of Standard H and sharing each of these personal stories with all of you. We each have goals, and it's the entrepreneurial spirit that inspired me to start the company. You can further support the brand and the podcast by visiting standard-h.com to pick up your choice of merchandise, and as always, thank you for listening. Lastly, if you have a moment, please rate and review the show. It makes a tremendous difference in keeping these things going. Now back to my conversation with Kendra. you doubled your business, you said, coming down here. Did the buy change at all? Or like what, I mean, other than foot traffic, what do you think? I mean, has there been any sort of different approach in this neighborhood?
Not in terms of our level of service. I mean, it's always the same. Service is really important to us. I mean,
And you've always been the buyer, right?
yeah. I think that I mean, obviously, since we made more money, I was able to buy different brands. But I do think that, like, when we have 3 different tiers of pricing, but of course, when someone sees one tag of an amazing piece, they might not look at anything else because of the price point and they walk
Yeah,
out.
sticker
So,
shock, yeah.
and I mean, again, our true clients aren't super price conscious. And it is something that we take into consideration. But, you know, we do have an ebb and flow with that too. And I think that it's constant. I mean, I'm always losing a brand. Like every other year I lose a brand that I don't know if their design team goes on acid or something, but I'm like, what happened to your,
Oh, I see. You're losing them as in you're not buying them. It's not like they're shutting their doors
right.
or anything.
Oh, well, that's the other half
That-
of it
that
too.
happens too, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's retail is all of it is dying. I mean, if we can't, you know, stores are closing because people aren't shopping in them. They're shopping online and they're not, you know, purchasing the clothing through a store, then obviously all the clothes that you know store purchase from those brands. I mean, the last trade show I went to, the energy was very different and very heavy and I'm very interested. I leave tonight to go to Vegas and I'm really interested to talk to not only my reps for my brands, but also other people who own businesses and what their, you know, the thermostat gauge is with them, because it's a very challenging place to be in retail. And I personally, I don't like online shopping, so I like to go to stores and I like to touch and feel and try. And I like to interact with people. And I don't know, I'm still faithful that there is like people that want, tons of people actually still want to have that experience of that connection with someone in a store and having that relationship and purchasing those clothes from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people get into the habit of going into stores to touch and feel and then just assume or know with confidence that they can go online and buy it cheaper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I already know the answer to this question, but I mean, like, how do you persuade somebody not to do that, right?
Again, I think that our true clients are very much aware of that, and they are like, Kendra, I don't come here to get a deal. I don't come here to get something on markdown. You know,
It's to support Kendra.
It's to support, yeah, and
and your other employees.
Yeah, absolutely.
In all fairness.
So it's like they. You know, I think people like us here. We make the building look good. We make Raleigh look good. We're trying. We'd like to, you know, make that footprint go a little farther, though.
Sure. Okay. We had talked about it very briefly earlier, but who is your customer?
As much as I don't like to talk about age or size, I mean, I think people that are typically in their 40s and 50s, they actually are, you know, obviously professionals that are well-traveled, they're cultured, they have an appreciation for clothing, they have appreciation for style. It's not that they're flashy about it, but they want to look good, and they know that like a well-lived life consists of a great wardrobe as well, and so they use clothing to project the well-lived life that they have.
When you started your business, you were in your 20s, right?
I was 30.
Okay, 30. I was thinking 28, but at any rate,
I just turned
when you happy belated or happy early birthday. Isn't next March, right?
I'll be 41.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were older than I am.
Yeah.
That's funny. So when you started your business, I doubt you thought, well, I'm going to open up a clothing store for people in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously your client sort of creates itself, right? From a population standpoint.
When I wrote my business plan, I actually had 3 different tiers of clients. And because I, again, was very much adamant about like, it's not about age and it's not about size. And so I had these, you know, the early adopters that were young. So those would be the millennials now of like, and we do have them that basically covet this one item, you know, that they can purchase and have the spotlight from their closet shining on this one piece, that are, you know, that they're younger, but they're out of the box thinkers and they're, you know, I don't want to say like creatives, kind of they're okay in their own skin and they don't want to conform and they're okay not looking like anybody else. So those are my young like early adopters. And then I have like the established professionals, which is like our bread and butter and our core clients that I think of. And so they're the ones that, you know, have been established in their careers and they have like disposable income, starting families and things like that. And then I have, you know, my, what did I call them? I don't know.
You're only going back 10 years.
Yeah, I know.
Jog the memory.
Yeah, but experienced, I don't know, experienced souls that they've been there, they've done that. They don't like to waste money on, you know, or they spend their money with intention. So they want good things. They want, I don't know, I was thinking good food, good wine, because that's what I want in traveling, you know, but they want to look good doing all those things. And they, again, have that appreciation for style and clothing. So those are the three demographics. And they have, again, a disposable income and their kids are out of the house and they're spending more money on themselves. So those are kind of like the three, you know, categories of individuals that I initially wrote my business plan based on. So
that's awesome.
And I feel like those are our clients. Like we truly obviously can help anybody, but again, it's people that really do appreciate the style element and good quality.
Yeah, for sure. So what lines do you carry?
We carry a bunch. So excuse me, for women, we just like two of our new brands, Marcella Moda and Metamorphosa are from Bulgaria. We have Cara, Court, FT, Scotch and Soda for men. We've got new denim for men, along with Wild Vertiga is one of our newest brands out of Israel. We just had a trunk show this weekend with them, and some of their pieces are very androgynous, so we appreciate that too. And we have lots of men that shop in women's clothing and women that shop in the men's clothing. And again, it doesn't really matter. It's just how you feel and how you want to express yourself. So yeah, we have a ton of different kinds of brands. I think most of them are not stateside. I don't know. I feel like I guess the ones that I'm more attracted to just have the angles and the lines, and at least the brands that I have got in the store just tend to be more overseas.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, it almost sounds like your buying strategy could also be arguably, whether it's conscious or not, of just trying to carry stuff that nobody else has.
Correct. Yeah, I
don't know anybody that's shopping Bulgarian lines.
Yeah, they're amazing. Their price point's great. But I think that and Australia, we do have Australian brands, but like, I don't know. Especially like when I was in Cameron Village and, you know, like there were people that were like, well, we carry that brand or whatever. And I don't know, I don't want to look like anybody else. Like, I don't know, for me, the whole purpose of opening my store is that it doesn't look like anybody else's store. And like, I don't know, I had a vision and,
well, do you ever get resistance from customers that don't know a brand? Cause I think that's kind of that tricky balance too, of like wanting to look good, but you know, there's certain cachet that comes with knowing a label too, right? Like even for Standard H, like I struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
With people, you know, selling to stores, they're like, well, we've never heard of you, so we can't buy you because we won't be able to sell you. It comes down to customers and education and storytelling and all that rest
exactly.
of that. But
I don't know if I've always just gone for the underdog or something. And also I look for style. Like when I'm at the trade show, you know, if I'm attracted to something, I go in there. Service to me is really important. So like, I mean, there was only one brand that I knew that I definitely wanted when I first went to the trade show, and they totally took advantage of me and were like, oh no, you need to do this, this, and this. And I mean, I left and I went to lunch and I was alone and I went back and I was like, I need you to give me that order. And I ripped it up and I was like, I will never buy from you. Like the way that they treated me, like for me, everything is based on positive long-term relationships that are based on a foundation of trust. Like you can't have them otherwise.
Can you go into more detail without telling the name of the brand?
Yeah.
Obviously, like what happened?
I mean, I literally went in knowing that this was the one brand that I really wanted to carry because I
But why?
love their style. Because I like their style. I had seen it before. I had pieces from them, from other like stores that had carried them.
So you're very familiar.
And I was really excited to carry this one particular brand. And again, it was classic, but it was edgy. And I went in there and I told him, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first trade show, but I know I wanted to carry you guys. And like, I don't need to be dog and ponied. I hate that whole like, oh, let me sit down and have wine and let me la la la. And I don't like that. I don't have also time to waste. And I just don't, again, it's just not my thing. And so, but yeah, I went in there and very much felt that, and they went in there and they're like, oh no, you need to get this and this. And I was like, well, I don't like that. And she's like, well, it's not about you, it's about your clients. And I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to buy stuff that I don't like. And I think, have that issue where, of course, I buy things for clients and things like that, but ultimately I buy it because I like it too. So, and I think I have a good eye for men and women. So,
Sure. Well, do you want to talk about DC?
sure, of course, absolutely.
So you're looking to expand
Yes.
again to ramp it back from 1 to 2.
Yes.
Why DC? Why out of state? You were 10 miles away between stores. Now you're 5-hour drive.
Yep.
Why would you do this?
Well, I mean, when I wrote my business plan, I initially wanted one in every state. And then over time, I've obviously with the experience of 3 locations, knowing that we just really need to be in big cities that are already established, very metropolis areas. And so DC is almost automatically international. Again, that's kind of our client and also our style. And people in DC, I mean, we have a lot of clients obviously that live in DC. It's easy to get to back and forth. My father lives in DC. I don't know, I've got one here for mom, one there for dad. And I think that we have a lot of people that are transient to DC as well. I mean, obviously the political climate changes things, but I think people there have places to go and things to do and disposable income to be able to do those things. And they do dress more or have more opportunities to dress, I guess.
So it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing
No.
to do the expansion. What can you maybe share with us that's not been a pitfall, because that sounds dramatic, but like, what have been some of the hurdles, maybe some of the challenges?
Honestly, it's weird. I've been very committed to this, but I'm not attached to it, which is what I'm trying to do with other aspects of my life. Is I am absolutely committed, but I'm not attached. If it doesn't happen, I know that there's a reason why. I mean, we looked at DC last year and we actually looked at Georgetown, and then they gave the space to somebody else, so we lost it. And thank God we're not in Georgetown, because Georgetown's dying as well. And it's apparently all the locals hate Georgetown and don't want to go there.
Traffic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super busy.
Yeah. So DC has come about almost a year now, and I got a phone call on my 40th birthday about it, and they were like, asked me if I was interested in DC, and I was like, I'm open. And they were like, there's this place underneath the Black Cat, and I was like, I just had a Reiki experience done, and out of that experience came a Black Panther, and I'm like, okay, if that's not writing on the wall, I don't know what it is. So I started going to DC, and I started doing market research. I literally sat across the street at Ted's Bulletin and drank mimosas all day and tallied the amount of people that were walking in front of my store across the street. And that was the sunny side, and there was 77 people every 15 minutes, and I didn't even count the people on the shady side of the street. So I mean, just the foot traffic alone is what we look for. We know that that's what we need. And so I don't know, doing that for a couple months and back and forth. And so finally, I've just only recently gotten the lease. I've met with the landlord, and he's amazing, and I love him. And I think that we make a great team together. I think he wants to revitalize this area of DC. It's on 14th Street. But the Black Cat has been around for 26 years. And he owns it. So I'm not dealing with corporate anything.
What kind of business is Black Hat?
It's a music venue.
Oh, sick.
It's awesome. So yes, every night we're going to have hundreds of people waiting outside of our store every day, waiting, and then hopefully coming back to actually shop it. So, or we'll just stay open for them while they're in line, and
sure,
we'll probably change our hours. We're going to play it by ear and see. But yeah, I mean, hurdles. I mean, my contractor came up there and, looked at the space and everything else. And I mean, obviously I'm still waiting for the investment to come in, and, but everything seems to be flowing smoothly. The only hiccup that I feel right now is that they're having permit issues. So DC is very political, right? And so they almost are, they're not a state, so they can do whatever they want to do, and they have their own issues dealing with that. And I have nothing to do with that process. So it's, unfortunately, my landlord has been dealing with all of it, because all I need is, I just do cosmetic changes to the space, so I don't need any permits for anything that I do. So he is running into a ton of issues with that, and that has prolonged the process. We are supposed to come in there on February 1st, and obviously we're a few days after that, so we're not there.
Yeah.
So it looks like 2 more months, he says, is what he thinks for the permits to go through before he can actually deliver the space. And I don't want to open in June because it's hot. So opening in March was the plan. And Friday the 13th underneath the Black Cat just sounds cool for grand opening purposes. So
sure.
Anyway, we'll see. Everything happens for a reason. I'm really not worried about it.
Yeah, totally. Well, you've kind of mentioned charity work in the past, and I know that's been near and dear to your heart on a multitude of levels. What are we doing these days, charity-wise?
So
I'm sure you're up to something.
So I think that part of the process of raising money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, like we had definitely been doing the fashion show still. For that, we recently stopped doing them for like having a silent auction, live auction, and the Gift of Hope. Like I just wanted to have a party and I just wanted to have people have fun. Like I'm not already asking them to spend money on clothes and everything else. I just wanted them to come in and have a good experience and have a celebration. And also like having the celebration of life, you know, and not forgetting about like my husband and everything. But so what we do now to keep supporting charities is pretty much, I mean, anyone that comes to me and asks me for anything, obviously, like we're just giving out gift cards for everyone to do for whatever charity they're raising money for. But like we're very like involved in the community, and so giving back in that sense. But every credit card transaction that comes through my store, a portion of that still goes to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So we've raised over $100,000 to date, and my plan is obviously with all of my stores, which I would like to have a kids and baby store. I want to have a body store with good lingerie, and all of the stores will just continue to use this particular system so that we can just always give back, and hopefully we'll find a cure.
That's awesome.
Someday.
Well, I certainly applaud that
Thanks.
effort 100%. What are we doing for fun these days when you're not working, when you're not thinking about your business?
So yoga has been a huge part of my life. I used to do like 11 classes.
11 classes?
That was like my peak weeks. Yeah.
A week?
Uh-huh. And then my worst weeks were 4, and then 7 was pretty much my average. And then I don't know if I told you or if you knew, like I got really sick and I almost died this year right after I turned 40. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear that at all.
So I stopped doing
You didn't send me that text.
Yeah. And they thought I had the flu, but they actually said that I had pneumonia. I didn't work for 2 months. I couldn't stand. I couldn't like stand for more than a tiny period of time. I had to literally sit with something supporting my back because I couldn't just like sit up. I couldn't talk normally because obviously I operate at a very high frequency and I feel very grounded. So I've actually like slowed down my speech a little. What I realized, I think for years, I've been telling the universe, like, I don't know how to relax. And the universe is like, here's pneumonia, figure it out. And I literally had no choice. And so I literally had to learn how to relax, which I've not done my entire existence because I got pregnant at 20 and I've just been running ever since. And
right.
So I think that this was a huge wake up call for me. And so my life completely changed. So for fun, I've learned how to relax. Sorry, get back to the point or the question. Sorry, that's what I do.
No, it's all good.
So I've stopped doing the heat, but I missed it. Like I felt like I was just investing in myself. Like I've been single for the past 4 years. So I feel like I've been just loving on myself and been in a relationship with myself and trying to break my old patterns and not get back into the same thing. And until
you didn't do the heat, you were doing hot yoga.
I was doing hot yoga. That was the only kind of yoga I'd ever done.
Wow. 11 classes of hot yoga.
Sweating that shit out. Yeah. But I did a lot of like gentle and yin. So I wasn't doing like the crazy workout kind of thing. Like for me, I went to yoga to get the center. I'm like, find your center, find your center. So I've been looking for my center, and you know, I just got back from Bali, so I think I've been talking to little Kendra here for a while now. But yeah, I mean, this year has been self-care. So prior to getting sick, I was doing acupuncture, chiropractic care, because I did a headstand in yoga and I rolled backwards and cracked my neck in 3 places and tore 3 ligaments. And so I was like, well, never again.
Kendra.
Yeah. So I started writing my book, Mind, Body, Soul, when I was sick. And I actually was almost finished with it, and I was on my way back from Bali, and Kendra Leonard does not lose things, and my laptop is gone, and so my entire book has disappeared. And I was assured by like 8 different people in 3 different airports that, oh yeah, this happens all the time, of course you'll get it back. And I am like hearing nothing from Emirates and Dubai. And so I'm like, oh God. So I had that moment too of like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then it was like, okay, there's nothing you can do. You have to let it go. And so I feel like I've had a lot of lessons over the last year of learning how to let go, learning how to breathe. Like I used to like to inhale, things because when I, drink, I like to smoke. And maybe that wasn't helpful for my, pneumonia or my lungs. And so I now have this thing that I call a substitute. It's really fun. I'm going to start selling at the store, I've decided, which is just like inhaling air. I call it substitute. Yeah, it's like a little cigarette extender, but I don't attach cigarettes to it because I don't want to smoke. I don't like the way it tastes or smells or whatever, but sometimes I just like, and it's like everything is psychological, right? So I like to hold it, and it's beautiful. But
it's nothing more than just a calming device at this point.
It's like a little straw, and I can just basically like inhale it when I'm like reading or writing or thinking or whatever. And so I've done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of writing this year. Yoga is still something that I do. I've actually started my own practice at home just because I'm really trying to be in tune to my body. Like, what does my body need? Oh, my body needs to do this position because that feels great. And so really trying to hone in on me and sink in deep and listen to myself and trust myself and learn and pay attention. So that's what this whole last year has really been about, and relaxing.
Wow.
Listening to water, being in nature, like just sitting there with the trees. It sounds really simple.
It's so heavy though.
Yeah.
But it's also enlightening because the weight is gone, I guess.
I feel the lightest that I have ever felt in my entire existence.
Incredible.
I still get massages on a weekly basis.
Sure, yeah.
But it's not to the level I used to need it so bad. My body was in so much pain. And so like just paying attention to like even what I'm eating, and what I'm putting in my body.
That makes such a monumental difference is your diet.
Yeah.
And especially as we get older.
Well, yeah, things don't operate the same way. They don't hold their same shape anymore. I mean, my clothing, like they're definitely, I don't know. I put on my jeans and I'm like, oh my God, have I just been wearing elastic waist pants this long? Like, what's going on? And so like paying attention to that because I want to look good, and not just because I'm single or whatever. Like I want to look good for me. And I want to be healthy. I want to live a very, very long life, but I want to live a very long, healthy life. And I don't know, I just visited a shaman in Bali, and he's like, health and happiness and success. And I'm like, cool. And he's like, no worries anymore. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying not to because January fucking sucked, but whatever. And there's, again,
we are in retail, right? January has never been a monumental month.
No, but
no matter what year.
We had a good year last year, and so that made it extra painful because we were down, and it was very painful, but it's in the past, and like you can't do anything about it. Moving on. Like, so I think all the elements of yoga truly do translate into life, for me at least. And so like even just the breathing, like you can reset your entire everything. And that's, so I breathe a lot. And I know that we breathe obviously on a regular basis, but
very rarely with intention.
Yeah. So I think we inhale a lot. And if you think about when you're stressed and you're pissed, you're just like, and you're huffing, but you're not like, and you might be puffing, but you're not fully like exhaling when you're, and so to really release, like we as humans are meant to release and, meant to have orgasms and meant to go to the bathroom and like all these things, like we're meant to release. And part of that is breathing too. And instead we hold it and it goes into our body. And anyway, I've just been doing lots of work this year.
That's great. Well, I don't think it's any coincidence that all of this self-care falls in only the lonely month.
Right.
So I think that weight is only going to be further lifted.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for taking part in the Standard Age podcast. It's always good to see you.
So good to see you.
And I really appreciate it. I'm sure somebody's going to learn something from this.
I hope so.
At least one person, hopefully.
I hope.
All right, Kendra.
Good to see you.
Thanks. Cheers. I'd like to thank Kendra one more time for having me in store to chat about all things related to the artist style and how she's come so far in her 10 years. 10 years is certainly impressive in today's climate, and I'm super happy to see all that's to come as well. Big thanks to Clear Audio for the use of their headphones and to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme music. Stay tuned for next week. As always, Tuesday morning we'll bring another edition of the Standard Age podcast. Thank you so much for listening.